Hello viewers, I'm your host Uzma Jafri with another episode of South Asia Focus. Let's begin the show. While India has been making rapid gains in the fight against the COVID, it has urged its citizens to exercise caution amid speculations of a third wave hitting the country in a few weeks. The weekly infection numbers have although come down. The ease in restrictions following lockdown fatigue has prompted citizens throng hill stations and other tourist spots, which the experts and the government believe could trigger a new wave if a COVID-compliant behaviour was not followed.
The tourist sites, especially the hilly areas in India, are witnessing an overflow of visitors as the second wave-induced lockdown in April and May, which compounded people's COVID fatigue, has been lifted in many states and other restrictions too have been eased. And with vaccination drive picking up pace in the country, people are more confident. However, the authorities have urged people to not let their guard down, for this could reverse the progress India has made in past weeks and can lead to a third wave, which is speculated to be more contagious and deadly.
COVID-appropriate behavior is absolutely essential. The pictures that we have seen today are frightening, and we have to be very, very careful, very, very responsible, and very, very cautious.
Earlier, India reopened stadiums, adventure spots and eased their localized restrictions. Thermal screening and sanitizers have been made available all across. Picturesque Kashmir too opened whitewater rafting, one of the first adventure spots to reopen after the second wave.
आफ्टर पेंडेमिक पहली एक्टिविटी है एडवेंचर स्पोर्ट्स में, जैसे कि हम माउंटेन बाइकिंग है, आज यहाँ पे राफ्टिंग है। एक टूरिज़्म बूस्ट होगा इससे। हम चाहते हैं कि एडवेंचर टूरिज़्म इससे बूस्ट होगा। हम चाहते हैं कि ऐसी एक्टिविटीज़ फ्यूचर में भी होनी चाहिए, क्योंकि कुछ 1-2 सालों से एक्टिविटीज़ बहुत कम हो रही है ड्यू टू पेंडेमिक।
And while Indian states have been gradually easing restrictions, the government has also ensured that the vaccination drive continues to receive a positive momentum. India's vaccination drive, the largest in the world, meanwhile has inoculated 370 million doses in the world, and with both Covishield and Covaxin set to enhance their manufacturing capacity manifold in coming weeks, the momentum is going to be even stronger. India aims to inoculate all of its adult population by the end of this year. Meanwhile, in a major blow to the discriminatory and bigoted stance of the European Union, which has barricaded India's Covishield from getting a real recognition, UK Prime Minister backed India and said he saw no reason why Indian vaccine was not being given the permission.
On your question about the Serum Institute of India and the AstraZeneca vaccinations, I see no reason at all why why the MHRA approved vaccines should not be recognised as part of the vaccine passports, and I'm very confident that that will not prove to be a problem.
About 5 million people in Britain are thought to have had the vaccine made by Serum Institute in India. Around 320 million of these doses have been inoculated in India thus far. While the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine had shown nearly 80% efficacy in clinical trials, its competence grows up to 90% if the gap between the two doses is increased to 12 weeks, the studies have suggested.
Moving on. As the assembly election date nears in the illegally occupied POK, the residents and the regional political parties have taken to streets, accusing the establishment of its involvement in the pre-poll rigging. They say the Islamabad's representatives, who are perennially absent during the wars and crises the region suffers, have suddenly taken the center stage to manipulate the electorate. The protests are also based on the fear of losing even the nominal autonomy like Gilgit Baltistan if Pakistan PM Imran Khan's PTI emerges victories through malpractice.
In the run-up to the assembly elections scheduled for July 25th, a large number of people in the illegally occupied POK took to the streets against the Pakistan establishment. They accused Imran Khan's government of pre-poll rigging through misuse and abuse of the state machinery. They said that apart from announcing a slew of SOPs, the government has been using both cash and coercion to influence the candidates and the electorate. This particular demonstration in Kotli was to oppose the arrival of Pakistan's Minister for Kashmir Affairs, Ali Amin Khan Gandapur, who, according to the protesters, was undemocratically and illegally managing the dynamics of the scheduled polls.
तो गंडापुर जो है वो मीरपुर में खड़े होके वो कह रहा है कि आप मुझे एक वोट दो, मैं एक वोट का 1 करोड़ रुपया आपको दूंगा। इससे पहले गिलगित के इलेक्शन में भी उसने यही हरकत की और अब वो यहाँ आकर वो कश्मीरियों की भी तजलील कर रहा है, वो जमहूरियत की तजलील कर रहा है और वो ये साबित कर रहा है कि ये इलेक्शन जो है ये इलेक्शन एक मखसूस जमात को और एक मखसूस टोले को जितवाने के लिए और अपनी मर्जी का एजेंडा जो है वो मुसल्लत करने के लिए यहाँ करवाए जा रहे हैं। इसलिए हम इस तरह के नाम नहाद जो इंतखाबात हैं जो जिनमें सिर्फ़ और सिर्फ इलाके पाकिस्तान के हामियों को हिस्सा लेने की इजाज़त है और जिनको एजेंसियाँ क्लियर करती हैं उनको हिस्सा लेने की इजाज़त है, हम उनको टोटली मुस्तरद करते हैं। ये फ्रॉड इलेक्शन है।
While calling political parties promises, trickery and facade, the protesters said that the successive governments in Islamabad have done nothing except economically exploiting the region and suppressing the rights of the individuals who live there. Elections virtually held under the barrel of a gun have only emboldened them. Even the composition of the assembly has been such that Islamabad always has a way to install its stooges. While it has the right to select and send a few members, others who come through the so-called electoral process are allowed to contest only after proving their allegiance to Islamabad.
इंटरनेशनल ऑब्जर्वर्स जो हैं हम उनसे भी ये अपील करते हैं कि वो इस चीज़ पे ख़ास कर जो है वो नज़र रखें कि ये जो पाकिस्तान के वज़ीर यहाँ आकर एक मुतनाज़िया इलाके में एक मखसूस पार्टी की मखसूस उम्मीदवारों की कैंपेन चला रहे हैं और लोगों को बता रहे हैं कि फ़लाँ आदमी वज़ीर आज़म है और आप उसके साथ हो जाएं और फ़लाँ जीतेगा आप उसके साथ हो जाएं, ये कोई इलेक्शन नहीं है। टोटली हम इसको मुस्तरद करते हैं और हमारा मुतालबा ये है कि इलेक्शंस के बजाय यहाँ से फ़ौजों को निकाला जाए, यहाँ राय शुमारी करवाई जाए ताकि इस मसले का कोई हल हो सके।
People in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir say that Islamabad is planning something sinister in the coming days. It could come on similar lines to what Gilgit Baltistan witnessed a few months back, where it passed a resolution declaring it a province of Pakistan. And that happened despite the fact that UN resolutions do not give it such jurisdiction over the region. That happened despite locals and India's the real owner by virtue of instrument of accession signed by the King of Jammu and Kashmir, strong opposition.
एक ऐसी हुकूमत बनाने की कोशिश की जा रही है कि जो तकसीम कश्मीर के एजेंडे पर मोहर साबित करे। यानी गिलगित से ये कोशिश की गई है, आपने देखा कि वहाँ असम्बली से ये करारदाद मंजूर करवाई गई कि जी इसको सूबा बनाया जाए। अब इस असम्बली से भी एक करारदाद मंजूर करवाई जाएगी।
Today's Pakistan-occupied region was part of British India until 1947, when Maharaja Hari Singh would rule the undivided state of Jammu and Kashmir. And through an instrument of accession signed in October 1947, he decided to be a part of India. However, a rattled Pakistan with the help of mercenaries attacked the then militarily ill-equipped state of Jammu and Kashmir. By the time Indian forces landed there, it had occupied large swathes of territories that continue to endure its occupation and second-class treatment.
Moving on. In what comes as a shock to optimists observing the Afghan situation, US President Joe Biden has further advanced the complete withdrawal date of US troops from Afghanistan, and they will be vacating all their posts by August 31st. Taliban is now appearing invincible, with more than 100 districts falling to them in just a few weeks. The Afghan National Army, which was dubbed, equipped and advanced to defend its territory, has fallen like 9 pins. They have crumbled without even putting up a fight. Some have even run away. For now, nobody knows what Afghanistan is heading towards and what is waiting for poor Afghans.
Call it a 9-pin fall, domino effect, or anything fancy that describes a sudden collapse and defeat, Afghanistan has tested it all in just a few weeks in the aftermath of the US deciding to withdraw completely from the region. And while Taliban's accelerated resurgence had made observers believe that Washington might just consider it once more before vacating it in entirety, President Biden, who hasn't been explicitly speaking about the issue, has instructed a speedier drawdown. And despite Afghan forces' visible incompetence, growing fears among diplomats stationed in Afghanistan and countries considering repatriating its citizens, Biden believes that Kabul is capable enough to defend itself.
We did not go to Afghanistan to nation build. And it's the right and the responsibility of Afghan people alone to decide their future and how they want to run their country. The Afghan government and leadership has to come together. They clearly have the capacity to sustain the government in place. The question is, will they generate the kind of cohesion to do it?
Meanwhile, Russia said it is ready to help Afghanistan and its bordering countries that were being affected by the emerging crisis in the country. The statement came after Tajikistan called on members of a Russian-led military bloc to help it deal with security challenges emerging from Afghanistan. As of today, Taliban has overrun areas bordering 5 countries: Iran, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, China and Pakistan. Earlier, hundreds of Afghan servicemen had crossed the border with Tajikistan in response to advances by the Taliban.
США не просто выводят войска из Афганистана, они выводят их де-факто, признав провал своей 20-летней миссии. Террористическая угроза меньше не стала, наоборот, многократно возросла после 2001 года, когда туда вошли американцы. Наркотическая угроза на порядке увеличилась.
Kabul residents fear the security situation in the country would worsen. They say Taliban rule will return and all the liberties they have obtained in the past 2 decades will be reversed.
والا تشویش خود تنها از من تمام افغانستان تشویش به این دارن که اگر نیروهای آمریکایی از افغانستان خارج شوه طالبان و افغانستان تصرف میکنه و هیچ مردم افغانستان هیچ فرد افغان از طالبان رضایت کامل نداره. دیگه مشکلات همینجاست که از روزی که آوازه و دروازه شده به کاروبار مردم بسیار لکنه وارد شده و همچنان تشویش مردم بسیار زیاد است.
The stop-start talks between the Taliban and the Afghan government haven't achieved anything substantial, and their future too doesn't seem promising. And with Taliban making headways at an unexpected pace, they already seem to have lost their significance. A 90s situation is looming large, and if the experts are to be believed, then Afghan forces cannot sustain Taliban even for 6 months once the forces are gone.
And now, in our section of Asia this week, the stories from across the continent that made news this week.
The Indonesian government has set up an oxygen distribution station in the capital of Jakarta to meet the demands from hospitals as local citizens buy up local oxygen supplies amid a surge in COVID-19 cases. Indonesia has one of Asia's most severe COVID-19 epidemics, exacerbated by the highly infectious Delta variant, with hospitals overstressed, oxygen supply problems, and a growing number of sick unable to receive medical attention. Private retailers of oxygen cylinders said their supplies have also been affected recently as demand has soared. Snaking queues of customers desperate for oxygen supplies for their elderly relatives were seen outside shops. Indonesia has been reporting more than 20,000 new cases and over 400 deaths per day over the past week as the spread of the more contagious Delta variant accelerated infections and strained the country's healthcare sector. With a total caseload of around 2.3 million and death toll around 61,000, the country is the worst affected by COVID-19 in Southeast Asia. The United Nations top human rights official called on ASEAN countries to launch a political dialogue with the military junta and the democratically elected leadership in Myanmar with support from the international community. UN High Commissioner for Human Rights Michelle Bachelet recently told the Human Rights Council that the Association of Southeast Asian Nations bloc agreed a 5-point consensus in April, but unfortunately the Myanmar military leadership have shown little sign of abiding by it. She also said it is urgent for ASEAN to appoint a special envoy or team to get some kind of political dialogue underway. I encourage ASEAN to engage with the democratic leadership and civil society, not just the military front, she told the Geneva Forum. Japanese horseradish, also known as wasabi, has fiery taste and is an important ingredient in Japanese food. In Azumino, Nagano wasabi is used as ice topping. Nisei introduces hot soft ice cream. Visitors enjoy the taste comparison of two different soft ice creams.
Wasabi だよこれ。あ。ちゃんとわさびと甘さと美味しいですよ。ツンとして、独特な味わいです。はい。
Dayo Wasabi Farm, established in the year 1950, is Japan's largest wasabi farm, covering an area of 15 hectares. The farm grows the best quality Japanese horseradishes. The farm has been attractively developed for tourists with walking trails between fields. Wasabi can only be grown in distilled water, and Azumino is blessed with sparkling clean spring water fed by snow melt from Japanese Alps. Yamba Dam is located in Nagano-Hora, Gunma Prefecture. It was opened in 2020. It is built on the Agatsuma River. It took around 70 years to build the dam and it stands 131 meters high. This dam helps in flood control and irrigation and is also gaining popularity as a tourist destination because of being surrounded by mountains and a lake.
このダムの上に一般の観光客の方が入れるようになりまして、それからたくさんの方が観光でいらっしゃっています。今ですね、湖を使った観光、例えば水陸両用バスですとか船を浮かべたり、あとカヌーやカヤックなどの水上アクティビティも楽しむことができるダムになっております。
Local operators have also launched an amphibious bus service that gives a tour of the lake. Just close to the dam, the municipality has built market where tourist bus stops. There are restaurants, souvenir shops offering sweets and gifts along with fresh local agricultural produce. This huge industrial infrastructure facility is a smart idea that contributes to tourism and reviving the local economy.
Moving on. Indian theatre is one of the most ancient forms of performing arts. With a motto to preserve this art form and connect the younger generation to their traditional roots, a workshop was held in Srinagar. It was organized by senior artists and independent theatre groups who are fully determined to preserve their traditional folk theatre. They are even training the young artists to cherish their rich cultural legacy. Take a look.
Amid the COVID-19 pandemic, the Tagore Hall in Srinagar city remains an epicenter of art and culture. A perfect blend of music, dialogues and beats of traditional musical instruments finally has broken the silence that was for long prevailing inside the four walls of the hall. Workshops on traditional folk theatre, popularly known as Band Pathir, are being conducted here by some of the senior Kashmiri artists like Shah Jahan Bhagat. By involving young talent in this folk theatre, an attempt is being made to revive the centuries-old legacy of the Union Territory while connecting the youth to their roots.
हम लोग यहाँ सीखने आए कि कस्टम कैसे पहना है और बड़ों के साथ वो बड़े हम लोगों को सिखाते हैं कैसे करना है परफॉर्मेंस फोक थिएटर के साथ। और आज हम लोग इनके साथ हम भी सीख रहे हैं कि कैसे प्ले करना है, वो हमको सिखा रहे हैं और हम उनके साथ सीख रहे हैं और हम लोग इस भांड पत्र को जिंदा रखना चाहते हैं।
Ranging from dialogue delivery to colourful costumes, the young artists are taught about each and every intricate element involved in performing Band Pathir. After getting trained, they are even made to showcase their performance in several plays. A play named Yusuf Shah Chak, which tells the tale of the late independent Muslim ruler of the valley, is the latest addition in the list.
इसमें मैंने यूथ इन्वॉल्व किया है। ये यूथ मैंने इसलिए इन्वॉल्व किया है कि जो हमारा ट्रेडिशनल कल्चर है वो दिन ब दिन मर रहा है। मैंने इसलिए नए बच्चे इसमें लाए हैं, उनको ट्रेनिंग दिया, मैंने वर्कशॉप किया है 20 दिन का और मैंने इनको तैयार करके यहाँ बुलाया टैगोर हॉल में। इस वक्त हमें यहाँ ये प्ले करना है यूसुफ शाह चक, जो नए तरीके से डॉक्टर सोहनलाल कौल ने लिखा है, वो अभी तक भांड पत्र में अभी तक नहीं हुआ है।
Lately, efforts have been made by several dedicated groups and cultural academies to revive this traditional folk theatre. Moreover, many educated youth of the Kashmir Valley have also formed their own Band Pathir groups, who give their performances at several stages, so as to keep their traditional Kashmiri street theatre alive.
Band Pathir Revival Project was inaugurated in 2015, which was the biggest ever initiative to give a new flip and ease of life to one of the most vibrant theatre tradition of Kashmir Valley. With that, we come to the end of this week's episode. See you next week. Goodbye and take care.